Picture this, okay? You're in a room full of people. Maybe it's your workplace or, maybe it's a family dinner with people you've literally known for years. And then, out of nowhere, someone says something sharp, insulting, or just flat out mocking about you right out loud. Every single pair of eyes in that room slowly turns towards you. That visceral panic, that sudden shock, it's absolutely paralyzing. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is deeply, deeply relatable for so many of us: how to survive and effectively shut down public humiliation.
In that exact split second, your physical reaction is immediate, right? It's intense. Your heart jumps, your face gets hot, your brain just completely goes blank. And because of that sudden freeze response, we usually do one of two things. We either lash out in anger, which we always regret, or we swallow the embarrassment whole, just kind of smiling like nothing happened. And then comes the absolute worst part, that painful late-night overthinking. You're lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene on a loop just because you simply didn't know how to respond in that exact moment.
But we're going to fix that. Here is your 6-part tactical roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be looking at the anatomy of the attack, mastering the strategic pause, flipping the room's dynamic, delivering confident comebacks, setting firm boundaries, and ultimately reclaiming your personal dignity. By the end of this, you are going to have the exact tools you need to shift the power dynamic back in your favor and stop these kinds of attacks permanently. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the anatomy of public humiliation, or what we're going to call the barking dog theory. So, right off the bat, we need to debunk a massive misconception. The myth your brain tells you is that this is a targeted, personal attack, that this person hates you and wants to destroy you. But the truth? Actually, think of them like a tiny, furious chihuahua, just barking at the wind. The wind didn't do anything wrong, right? The dog is barking because of what's happening inside the dog. These aggressors, they are deeply scared. They're basically just barking for attention and power, desperately trying to feel important for a few seconds. It is a symptom of their own insecurity, not a reflection of your flaws.
And this brings us to the absolute golden rule of social dynamics. Whoever loses control first loses the room. Seriously, when you get angry and yell, you lose. When you shrink away and go completely quiet, you lose. The room naturally respects the person who stays calm and doesn't flinch. So your goal here isn't to destroy them with words, it's simply to stay in control. Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, Master the Strategic Pause. Subtitle here, Taking Away Their Fuel. Let's look at the very first micro-tactic you can use to immediately neutralize their momentum.
Okay, here is your exact physical sequence. You're going to pause, take a slow breath, look calmly at them, and blink once slowly. Think about it. When someone tries to humiliate you, their entire game plan depends on your emotional reaction. The anger, the flustered nerves, that is literally the fuel that makes their little fire burn. By executing this exact sequence, you completely deny them that reaction. You leave them standing there with no fire, just this heavy, awkward silence that slowly starts to point right back at them. In this moment, your calmness is absolute control.
All right, Section 3. Let's see how this builds. We're going to flip the social dynamics, shifting you from the target to the narrator.
So, the crucial point here is how you actively involve the bystanders to hand the awkwardness back to the room. After your pause, you calmly look at the group and say this exact phrase. Did that land weird for anyone else, or is it just me? It's brilliant because by doing this, you instantly break that one-on-one dynamic. You're no longer the target. You are now calmly observing the situation from the outside. You force everyone else to quietly evaluate the aggressor, which just leaves them hanging in the silence.
Or you could try this script. You name the behavior out loud. You say, "That felt like it was meant to embarrass me. Am I reading that wrong?" This perfectly illustrates how to break that secret social agreement we all seem to have. Usually when someone says something sharp, everyone pretends it wasn't a big deal. But by naming it directly, right on the record, you show you aren't scared to say the true thing out loud. Now they can no longer hide behind claiming it was just a joke.
But wait, what if this is a repeat offender who just really isn't worth your time? For them, you use the redirect. Basically, you delete them out of complete indifference. The very moment they finish their snarky comment, hold eye contact for exactly 1 second, just long enough to show you heard it. Then, physically turn your body and smoothly resume another conversation. Boom. You are literally telling the room that their attempt to embarrass you is entirely beneath your notice.
Moving on to Section 4, Quietly Confident Verbal Comebacks, or showing teeth without biting.
Because let's be real, there are times you must speak up and show the room that you simply cannot be pushed around.
Here are your rules for these specific moments. First, keep your voice low and soft. Notice how I'm intentionally dropping my volume right now? When you speak softly, people actually have to lean in to hear you, and you project this unshakable certainty. Second, use short sentences, 1 or 2 maximum. Long, rambling speeches look defensive, whereas short, clean responses look certain. And finally, never insult them back. Remember, you're not trying to win a fight, you're ending one, with your dignity fully intact.
So take this script as a great example. I am comfortable with who I am. That must make me hard to rattle. If you deliver this comeback with that quiet confidence we just talked about, it carries a certainty that is almost impossible to argue with. You stand there like an unmoving wall. You don't need their approval, right? Because you've already approved of yourself. Which brings us to Section 5, Setting Long-Term Boundaries. Rewriting the rules of respect. Now we're shifting our focus from merely surviving that immediate moment to handling the macro-level aftermath and securing permanent boundaries. You have to ask yourself a pretty pivotal question here. Was this the first time they did this to you? Because if the answer is no, then the real problem isn't just what they said today. The real problem is that this aggressor has slowly learned, over time, that pushing you carries absolutely zero consequences. They test the waters, they push a little, and when nothing happens, they push harder. So to stop that cycle, after you walk away from the public incident with your dignity intact, you must have a private, unemotional conversation. You pull them aside, look them in the eye, and use this exact script. What happened earlier cannot happen again. I'm telling you directly because I respect you enough to say it to your face. That's it. No long speeches, no drama. Just drawing an unbreakable line in the sand. You see, clarity is the language confident people speak, and it's absolutely the language bullies understand most. By holding your ground privately and, crucially, without anger, you fundamentally rewrite the unspoken rules of how you are allowed to be treated. People will stop testing you, not because you became aggressive or mean, but because you are no longer an easy target.
Finally, Section 6. Reclaim your personal dignity. Let's focus on your internal shift here, moving from being an easy target to becoming a completely immovable force.
I really want you to internalize this one thought. Dignity isn't something other people give you. It is claimed. And you claim it not by being the loudest, most aggressive person in the room, but by being the most grounded and the most certain. That aggressor? They were counting on your panic. They were counting on your silence. Basically, they were counting on the old version of you. But with these tools we've gone over, you are just not that version anymore. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question straight from our source material. What is the hardest part of handling public humiliation for you personally? Is it staying calm in the moment? Finding the right words? Or is it that brutal late-night replay? Think about your weakest link. Reflect on it. Because once you identify it, you can use the structured tools we discussed today to completely master it.